Tawa longing for a child had become an all-consuming prayer, a constant ache in her heart that she couldn't shake. She had tried every remedy, every ritual, and every plea, but the months turned into years, and her arms remained empty. The waiting had taken a toll on her marriage too, as the pressure to conceive mounted and the disappointment of each failed attempt weighed heavily on their relationship. Despite the strain, Tawa and her husband Jide held on to hope, refusing to let their dream of starting a family slip away. They drew strength from their faith, their love for each other, and the promise of a brighter future. Tawa's prayer became more fervent, more desperate, and more sincere as she begged God to bless her with a child. The strain was further intensified by Jide's mother, who, frustrated by Tawa's inability to produce an heir, began to maltreat her. She will often belittle Tawa, calling her barren and worthless. The elderly woman even went as far as to threaten Jide, telling him to take another wife who could give him children. Tawa felt like she was walking on eggshells, never knowing when Jide's mother would lash out at her next. Despite the tension, Tawa and Jide held on to hope, refusing to let their dream of starting a family slip away. One fateful day, Jide's mother, fueled by frustration and disappointment, reached her breaking point. She confronted Tawa, her voice dripping with venom, and declared that she was no longer welcome in their home. "You are a barren woman, a waste of space," she spat, her words cutting deep. "You have brought shame to our family, and I won't stand for it anymore." With that, she ordered Tawa to pack her bags and leave, threatening to bring in a new wife for Jide, one who could give him the children she so desperately desired. Tawa, devastated and heartbroken, was forced to leave the only home she had known since her marriage, leaving behind the life she had built with Jide. Jide's life began to unravel in the months following his mother's cruel ultimatum. His wife, Tawa, had been forced to leave their home, and Jide was left to navigate the treacherous water of his family's displeasure alone. His mother, still sitting with anger and disappointment, turned her wrath on Jide, making life at home unbearable, wanting him to marry another woman. The tension and stress began to affect Jide's performance at work, and soon he found himself struggling to keep up with his responsibilities. The final blow came when Jide's employer, citing his recent decline in productivity, handed him a pink slip. Jide was devastated. Without a job, he felt lost and powerless. The months that followed were a blow of uncertainty and fear. Jide's savings dwindled, and he struggled to make ends meet. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Jide's hope began to dwindle. He felt like he was walking through a desert with no oasis in sight. His mother's rejection, his job loss, and his separation from Tawa had left him feeling broken and defeated. Jide had had enough of his mother's meddling. Every few days, she would show up at his doorstep unannounced and proceed to criticize his life choices. But today, Jide decided to stand up to her. "Mother, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice firm but respectful. "I want you to stop coming to my house every now and then. It's getting exhausting." His mother, taken aback by Jide's sudden assertiveness, spluttered in protest. "What's wrong with me visiting my own son?" she demanded. But Jide was resolute. "I mean it, mother. If you don't stop, I will have no choice but to move away, far away, where you won't be able to see me again." His mother's eyes widened in shock. She had never seen Jide so determined. Jide continued, his voice trembling with emotion. "You are the one who has been causing all the problems in my life, mother. You are the one who sent Tawa away, and everything has been falling apart ever since. I hold you responsible for my job loss, from the separation from my wife, For everything, his mother's face fell, and for a moment, Jide thought he saw a glimmer of remorse in her eyes. But then her expression hardened and she protested. I did it all for you, Jide. I wanted you to have children of your own, to carry on our family's legacy. Jide shook his head. His jaw clenched in frustration. That's not true, mother. You did it for yourself because you couldn't stand the thought of Tawa being barren. But since you sent her away, everything has crumbled. I want Tawa back, mother, and if you don't bring her back, I will leave the city and you will never see me again. His mother's face paled at the thought of losing her son forever. She realized too late that her meddling had driven Jide to the brink. Okay, she said, her voice trembling. I will bring Tawa back. Just please don't leave me, Jide. Jide's expression softened slightly, but his eyes remained resolute. I mean it, mother. Bring Tawa back, or I am gone. Jide's mother, still reeling from her son's ultimatum, set out to visit Tawa's family home. She had never been one to admit defeat, but the thought of losing her son forever had shaken her to her core. As she arrived at Tawa's home, she was met with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. Tawa, who had been living with her parents for the past 2 years, was shocked to see her mother-in-law standing at her doorstep. Tawa's initial reaction was one of skepticism. She had never thought that the woman who had so callously sent her away would come begging for her to return. Jide's mother, sensing Tawa's hesitation, fell to her knees, pleading with her to return to her son. Tawa, my dear, please forgive me for my past mistakes. I realize now that I was wrong to send you away. Jide needs you, and I need you to make my son happy. But Tawa was unmoved. She had spent the past 2 years rebuilding her life, and she had grown accustomed to living without Jide. I am doing fine without him, she said, her voice firm but polite. I have had other suitors, but I turned them down because I wasn't ready to move on. But now, I am happy just the way I am. Jide's mother looked unhappy, but Tawa's mother, who had been watching the exchange, intervened. Tawa, my dear, don't be too hasty, her mother said gently. Jide's mother has come to apologize and beg for your return. Perhaps it's time for you to forgive and move forward. You and Jide were happy once, and you can be again. Tawa looked at her mother, and then at Jide's mother, who was still kneeling at her feet. Something about her mother's word resonated with her, and she felt a spark of hope ignite within her. Jide was overjoyed to be reunited with Tawa, and he vowed to never let her go again. As they hugged each other tightly, Jide's mother looked on, a smile of relief and gratitude on her face. She had learned a valuable lesson about the power of forgiveness and the importance of family. The week Tawa returned home, a great turnaround occurred in Jide's life. He received a multi-million naira contract that transformed their financial life forever. It was as if the universe had shifted in their favor, and everything was falling into place. Then, one glorious morning, Tawa discovered she was pregnant. The news was like a ray of sunshine bursting through the cloud, illuminating her world and filling her heart with joy. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, wonder, and awe as she realized that her long-awaited miracle had finally arrived. With trembling hands and a heart full of praise, Tawa shared the news with Jide, and together they celebrated the promise of new life. The early days of her pregnancy were filled with joy and anticipation. However, as the weeks progressed, Tawa began to experience strange occurrences. She would fall asleep only to wake up feeling a weird sense of emptiness. Her stomach would be flat, and for a terrifying moment, she would think she had lost the baby. Panicked, Tawa would shout for Jide, but before he would get to her pregnancy would reappear. The baby would start kicking, and her stomach would swell once more. Jide, though concerned, could not understand what Tawa was going through. To him, the pregnancy seemed normal. Unconscious to Tawa and Jide, the marine kingdom had taken notice of the pregnancy. A dark, malevolent force had infiltrated Tawa's womb, replacing the human fetus with a marine one. The pregnancy progressed, but Tawa's experience grew more frequent and intense. After 9 months, Tawa gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Ayomikun. AY, as fondly called, grew up. She exhibited extraordinary physical and mental abilities, but her life was marred by inexplicable occurrences. She would often disappear for hours, only to return with no memory of where she had been. On 2 separate occasions, Ayomikun's connection to the marine kingdom nearly proved fatal. She died in her sleep, only to be revived after intense prayer session by her family and community. These near-death experiences left Tawa shaking and seeking answers. Ayomikun grew up with extraordinary powers that set her apart from her peers. Her beauty was irresistible, and she quickly became aware of the effects she had on those around her. Ayomikun's teacher had no idea of what was coming when he offended her in class. Unknown to him, Ayomikun possessed supernatural abilities that she wasn't afraid to use. The next day during assembly, the teacher's clothes mysteriously disappeared from his body, leaving him standing naked in front of the entire school. The students erupted into laughter and jeers, while the teacher stood frozen in embarrassment. She also targeted one of her classmates, a proud and intelligent girl who often looked down on her peers. Ayomikun caused a swarm of ants to infest the girl's hair, sending her into a frantic panic as she shouted for help. The girl's cries echoed through the hallways, but no one suspected Ayo of being the culprit. She was always quiet and unassuming, and a classmate had no idea that she was behind the strange occurrences plaguing their school. But what they didn't know was that Ayomikun's power went far beyond mere pranks. Whenever her mother conceived, she would often transform into a cow, attacking her mother's pregnancy in her dream and causing her to miscarry in the physical world. Her mother had been pregnant multiple times, but each time she would mysteriously lose the baby. The family had been baffled by the recurring miscarriages, but AY knew the truth. She was the one responsible, using her supernatural abilities to sabotage her mother's pregnancy. As she entered her teenage years, Ayomikun began to realize that she had an insatiable urge for sex, and she found herself using her powers to lure men into her web. Unknown to her parents, AY had become an agent of destruction, pulling down great destiny through her seductive charm. By the time she was 16, Ayomikun had already destroyed the destinies of over 60 young and old men. One day, her mother entered her room unannounced and was shocked to see Ayomikun floating in the mid-air, laughing and chatting with invisible entities. The mother's eyes widened in horror as she shouted, "Jesus!" Ayomikun fell to the ground and was weak for hours. When she regained her strength, she warned her mother to always knock at the door before entering her room. The mother couldn't relate what she saw with Jide. She would disappear for days, only to return with a faint smile on her face, leaving a trail of broken lives in her wake. Tawa explained to Jide a recent observation about their daughter, and Jide was troubled. Her parents, who had once been so proud of their beautiful daughter, were now frustrated, not knowing what to do with the child they loved so much. One day, Ayomikun's mother, Tawa, sat her down for a heart-to-heart talk, but just as they were getting started, Ayomikun disappeared into thin air, leaving her mother frantic with worry. 5 days passed, and Tawa was troubled, not knowing where to look for her daughter or what to do to bring her back. As the days turned into a week, Tawa's mother-in-law came to visit, her face engraved with worry and accusation. "You went outside God to seek a demonic child," she spat, her eyes blazing with anger. "You good-for-nothing daughter-in-law. So because I troubled you in the past, you went to bring a cursed child to this family. Aside that, you have not been able to give us another child. I cursed the day my son met you." Tawa was taken aback by the accusation, but she knew that she had to find a solution to her daughter's problem. Tawa, out of frustration and desperation, left the house without a destination in mind. She had been searching for answers for so long, and the disappearance of her daughter had pushed her to the edge. She noticed an unkempt man standing by the roadside. To her surprise, he called out her name and told her to leave the house for a few days if she wanted to uncover the secret behind her daughter's strange behavior. The man's words sent shivers down Tawa's spine. She felt a sense of anxiety, but something about his tone made her trust him. He warned her that if she failed to listen to him, she will never see her daughter again. Tawa, desperate to save her daughter, agreed to the man's instruction. She switched off her phone, avoiding any contact with her family. As she wandered through the streets, Tawa couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. She felt like she was being watched, and the air seemed to vibrate with a supernatural energy. Despite her fears, she pressed on, driven by her determination to uncover the truth. That night, Judas sat outside, waiting for his wife to return. But as the hours ticked by, he began to feel a sense of unease. His mother tried to reassure him, but even she couldn't hide the worry on her face. As the days passed, Judas' behavior became increasingly erratic. He would sit in front of his mansion, talking to himself and pacing back and forth like a caged animal. On the third day, a strong gust of wind swept through the compound, and Judas saw his daughter standing in front of him. He almost fainted, but he summoned the last bit of strength to call out to his mother. As soon as she saw Ayomiko, she began to laugh furiously, displaying all the signs of a person on the brink of madness. Judas was confused and frightened, and he quickly called the neighbors for help. When the neighbors arrived, Judas' mother began to confess the dark secret she had kept hidden for so long. She revealed how she had made a pact with the marine goddess to have a child, and how that child was promised to the goddess' daughter in marriage. The goddess had warned her that if she broke her promise, Judas will never have children and would die at age 40, while she would run mad. Everything began to go wrong when Tawa came into the picture. Her womb was tied in their kingdom for 8 years, but her constant prayer loosed the womb. As she continued her confession, Judas' mother revealed that Ayomiko was not her biological granddaughter. The marine kingdom had replaced the original fetus with one of their own when the prayer life of Tawa went down after pregnancy, and Ayomiko was the result of that dark magic. If Ayomiko had met her mother at home when she appeared, she would have rushed into her arms, the warmth of their embrace filling her with a fleeting sense of safety and love. In that very moment, her life would have slipped away, her final breath taken in her mother's arms. This heartbreaking tragedy would have left her mother consumed with grief, drowning in sorrow as she held her lifeless daughter, unable to escape the unbearable weight of losing her beloved child. The goddess had planned for Ayomiko to die at the age of 20, but Tawa's prayer had thwarted that plan. She revealed that they usually attack believers after a major breakthrough because most of them stop praying, thereby allowing the fire on their altar go down. As Judas' mother finished her confession, she disappeared into thin air, leaving behind a stunned Judas and his neighbors. Unknown to them, Tawa had spent the past few days on a mountain, praying fervently for answers. Her prayers had prompted Judas' mother to reveal the truth. As Tawa prepared to return home, a man appeared to her, telling her it was time to go back to her family. Tawa, still reeling from the revelations, made her way back home, unsure of what lay ahead. When she arrived, she found Judas and Ayomiko waiting for her, their faces engraved with a mix of fear and relief. Together, the family began to unravel the mysteries of the Marine Kingdom hold on them. They sought out the help of powerful spiritual leaders who guided them through the process of breaking the curse. It was a long and difficult journey, but in the end, they emerged victorious, free from the grip of the Marine Kingdom. As they look back on their ordeal, Tawa and Jide realized that their love and determination had been the key to their victory. They had faced the unknown and had come out on top. Their bond is stronger than ever. Ayomikun too has found peace, her true identity revealed, and her destiny freed from the shackles of the Marine Kingdom.